Hello guys, welcome to Fiction Quest. So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto was reborn in DxD and got married to the Valkyries Rossweisse and Brynhildr? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. Awakening in a New World. The first sensation was pain, dull and throbbing through every inch of his body. The second was confusion, as fragmented memories collided against one another like broken glass. Naruto Uzumaki's eyes snapped open to an unfamiliar sky, the vivid blue stretching endlessly above him. He tried to sit up, grimacing as muscles protested. His hand moved automatically to his abdomen, expecting to find blood or a wound, but there was nothing, just the unfamiliar fabric of clothes he didn't recognize. What the hell happened? He muttered, blinking to clear his vision. The last thing he remembered was, what? Fighting alongside Sasuke. The final confrontation with Kagaya. A blinding light. Then nothing. Naruto took stock of his surroundings. He was lying in a small clearing, near what appeared to be a school campus. Large brick buildings rose in the distance, students in uniforms milling about. Nothing looked familiar. Not the architecture, not the clothing, not even quality of light filtering through unfamiliar trees. This definitely isn't Konoha, he said to himself, standing unsteadily. He was wearing dark pants and an orange button-up shirt, at least whoever had dressed him had good taste in colors. Instinctively, he reached for his chakra, relieved to feel it responding within him. But something felt off, as if the energy flowed differently here, resonating with the world around him in unfamiliar patterns. He formed a simple hand sign, focusing his chakra. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Instead of the usual puff of smoke and multiple copies, the chakra surged violently through his system. A single clone appeared beside him, but the backlash sent Naruto staggering. The clone dissolved almost immediately. What the? Naruto frowned, staring at his hands. My chakra control is all over the place. Quote. He tried again, this time with less force, carefully modulating the flow of energy. A single shadow clone materialized properly, looking as confused as Naruto felt. You feel it too? Naruto asked. The clone nodded. Chakra feels weird here, like it's mixing with something else. Before Naruto could respond, a sensation he hadn't felt in years washed over him, a stirring deep within his consciousness. Naruto. The voice was faint, but unmistakable. Kurama, you're still with me. Barely. Awakening. Different world. Be careful. The Nine-Tails voice faded back into dormancy. Naruto dispelled the clone and closed his eyes, centering himself. If Kurama said this was a different world, he believed it. The fox had never steered him wrong, not since they'd become true partners. Different world, huh, wouldn't be the first time I've been thrown into something crazy, he muttered, straightening his shoulders. First things first, figure out where I am and how things work here. Quote, the school seemed as good a place as any to start gathering information. Naruto made his way toward the campus, taking in the unfamiliar sights and sounds. The students looked like ordinary teenagers, but occasionally he sensed something else, flickers of energy that reminded him of chakra but felt fundamentally different. As he approached the school gates, he saw a sign, Kuo Academy. A young woman with long black hair and violet eyes noticed him standing at the entrance and approached with a polite smile. Can I help you? Are you looking for someone? Naruto rubbed the back of his head, a habitual gesture when feeling awkward. I'm a bit lost, actually. Could you tell me what city this is? The girl's eyes widened slightly in surprise, but her smile remained. This is Kuo Town. Are you new to the area? You could say that, Naruto replied, studying her. There was something unusual about her energy signature, not quite human, though she appeared to be. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Yuma Amano, she replied, bowing slightly. Perhaps I could show you around. I was just leaving for the day. Something about her offer triggered Naruto's instincts. Years of combat and facing deception had honed his ability to sense ill intent, however well disguised. This, Yuma, was hiding something behind her innocent facade. That's very kind, he said, maintaining his own friendly demeanor while staying alert. I'd appreciate that. As they walked away from the school, Yuma led him through a park, chatting about the town and asking seemingly innocent questions about where he was from. Naruto provided vague answers, claiming memory problems from a recent accident, not entirely untrue. The park was emptying as evening approached, and Naruto noticed Yuma subtly steering them toward an isolated fountain area. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. "You know," Yuma said, her voice suddenly dropping to a more sultry tone, "I've enjoyed our time together, Naruto. But I'm curious about something." "And what's that?" Naruto asked, already shifting his weight to a more combat-ready stance. "What exactly are you?" Her innocent expression melted away, replaced by something calculating and cold. "You're not human, but you're not a devil, angel, or fallen angel either. Your energy signature is unusual." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "I could ask you the same question. Yuma, if that's even your name." Her laugh was musical but carried no warmth. "Perceptive. I suppose there's no reason to maintain this charade." Light flashed around her body, and her appearance transformed. Her school uniform disappeared, replaced by what looked like black leather straps covering minimal parts of her body. Most startling were the black feathered wings that extended from her back. "My real name is Rainer," she announced, rising into the air with a beat of her wings. "And whatever you are, you've wandered into the wrong territory." A spear of light materialized in her hand, glowing with pinkish-purple energy. Without warning, she hurled it directly at Naruto's chest. Naruto sidestepped the attack with practiced ease, his body responding instinctively despite his disorientation in this new world. The light spear embedded in the ground where he'd stood, sizzling with energy. "That's not very friendly," Naruto said, his voice hardening. "I haven't done anything to you. Your mere existence is provocation enough," Rainer sneered, creating another light spear. "Unknown entities don't get the luxury of explanations." She launched multiple spears in quick succession. Naruto dodged most, but caught the last one, wincing as the light energy burned his palm. He examined it for a split second before throwing it back at her with precision. R's eyes widened in shock as she barely avoided her own weapon. "Impossible. No human could touch a light spear, let alone throw it back." "I already told you," Naruto said, flexing his healing palm, "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. And wherever I am, I'm not looking for trouble, but I'm not afraid of it either." Naruto reached for his chakra again, more carefully this time. He needed to end this quickly without causing too much destruction. A Rasengan might be overkill, but he needed to show this winged woman he wasn't defenseless. As he began forming chakra in his palm, he sensed new presences approach. Multiple signatures of energy similar to Rainer's, but different. "Her reinforcements, perhaps. Seems we have company," Naruto commented, not taking his eyes off Rainer. She smiled cruelly. "My associates. Your strange energy has attracted quite a bit of attention, Naruto Uzumaki." But Rainer's smile faltered as she looked past Naruto. "No. Not them." Naruto risked a glance over his shoulder. A group of teenagers in Kuo Academy uniforms had entered the park, led by a crimson-haired young woman whose presence radiated authority. Beside her stood a raven-haired beauty with a stern expression, a small white-haired girl, and a blonde boy whose smile didn't reach his eyes. "Fallen angel," the red-haired girl called out, her voice carrying across the park, "You're trespassing in my territory." Rainer's face contorted with fury. "Grimoire devil, this doesn't concern you. Anything that happens in my territory concerns me," the girl replied calmly. She looked at Naruto with interest, especially when it involves someone with such curious energy. Naruto found himself caught between two clearly supernatural factions, neither of which he understood. But his instincts told him the newcomers, while dangerous in their own right, weren't immediate threats like Rainer. "I'd rather not be in the middle of whatever territorial dispute you two have," Naruto said, addressing both women. "I just woke up here and I'm trying to figure out where here even is." The red-haired girl raised an elegant eyebrow. "Woke up here? How intriguing. I'm Rias Grimoire, heir to the House of Grimoire. This is my territory, and I offer you protection, should you want it." Rainer snarled, creating another light spear. "He's mine. I found him first. I'm not anyone's," Naruto said firmly. "And I don't need protection." As if to prove his point, Raynor chose that moment to attack, launching her spear not at Naruto this time, but at Rias. Naruto reacted instantly, his body moving before his mind had fully processed the threat. He appeared between Rias and the spear, deflecting it with a kunai he'd instinctively pulled from a hidden pocket. Everyone stared at him in shock. "How did you move so fast?" the small white-haired girl asked, her monotone voice betraying a hint of surprise. "Practice," Naruto replied simply, keeping his eyes on Raynor. "Look, I don't know what devils, angels, or whatever you all are. But I don't want to fight. Though I will if you keep throwing those spears at me or anyone else." Raynor hovered uncertainly, clearly reassessing the situation. More light spears formed in her hands. But her confidence had visibly wavered. Rias stepped forward, red energy gathering around her hand. "You've made a poor choice today, Fallen One. Leave now, or face destruction." After a tense moment, Raynor's wings beat furiously as she ascended higher. "This isn't over," she spat, then flew away rapidly, disappearing into the darkening sky. Once she was gone, all attention turned to Naruto. "That was quite impressive," the blonde boy said, extending his hand. "I'm Kiba Yuto." Naruto shook it cautiously. "Naruto Uzumaki. These are my companions," Rias introduced. "Akano Himahima, Kaneko Tuju. And you've met Kiba. We're the Occult Research Club of Kuo Academy." "That's a convenient cover," Naruto remarked dryly. Rias smiled, a hint of respect in her eyes. "Indeed. But perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private. Would you join us at our clubroom?" Naruto weighed his options. These devils had intervened against Raynor, but that didn't necessarily make them allies. Still, they were offering information, which he desperately needed. "All right," he agreed. "But just so we're clear, I'm only coming to talk. I'm not looking for trouble. But I can handle myself if it finds me." "Understood," Rias said with an amused smile. "Though I must say, your confidence against beings you admit to knowing nothing about is either admirable or foolish." "I've been called worse than foolish," Naruto replied with a grin. "Usually right before proving people wrong." This earned a small laugh from Akano. "I like him already," she said, her voice teasing. "He's interesting." Kaneko simply studied him with unblinking eyes. "Strange energy," she murmured. "Not magical. Different." As they walked back toward the school, Naruto took the RT Unity to observe his new companions more carefully. They appeared human but carried themselves with the awareness of trained fighters. Their energy, what he was beginning to understand they called magical power, felt dense and controlled. Not unlike chakra but with different properties. The school was mostly empty as they led him to the old school building, climbing the stairs to a room within. Ornate door bearing the Occult Research Club emblem. Inside, Victorian-style furniture, bookshelves, and occult symbols created an atmosphere that seemed designed to impress visitors. "Please, make yourself comfortable." Rias gestured to a sofa as Akano began preparing tea. Naruto sat, but remained alert. "So, you're devils. As in, from hell." Kiba chuckled. "Not exactly how we'd put it, but essentially yes. We're devils from the underworld. And that woman with the black wings. A fallen angel," Akano answered, placing a teacup before him. "Angels who fell from heaven's grace." Naruto took the cup, inhaling the unfamiliar aroma. "And I'm guessing regular angels exist too." "They do," Rias confirmed, sitting across from him. "The three factions, devils, fallen angels, and angels, have been in conflict for millennia. Though we're currently in a tentative peace period following the Great War." "Right," Naruto said, taking a sip of tea to buy himself time to process. It was a lot to absorb, but no stranger than some of the things he'd experienced in his own world. "And what about humans? Where do they fit in?" "Most humans are unaware of our existence," Rias explained. "We operate in the shadows. Though some humans with special abilities or knowledge become involved with our world." Naruto nodded slowly. "And what exactly are you doing in a high school?" "This area is under my family's protection," Rias said. "We monitor supernatural activity and maintain the peace. The school serves as a convenient base of operations." "And you recruit humans?" Naruto asked, remembering how the students had given off faint supernatural energies. Rias smiled. "Sometimes, when circumstances warrant it," Humans become part of devil society through a reincarnation system. Naruto placed his cup down. All right, I've answered enough questions. My turn. What year is it, and what country am I in? The devils exchanged surprised glances. It's 2010, Rias answered. And you're in Japan. Did you truly not know that? Naruto let out a low whistle. That confirms it. I'm definitely not from this world. His statement caused a stir among the devils. Kaniko's eyes narrowed, Kiba leaned forward with interest. And Akino's smile grew more curious. Explain, Rias requested, her tone somewhere between command and fascination. Naruto considered how much to reveal. These devils seemed reasonable enough. But he wasn't naive enough to trust them completely. Still, he needed allies in this strange world. I'm from a place called the Elemental Nations, he began. A world of shinobi, ninja, you might call them. We use chakra, a combination of physical and spiritual energy, to perform techniques that might look like magic to you. The last thing I remember clearly was a major battle, then a flash of light, and then I woke up here. Quote, interdimensional travel, Rias mused. Rare, but not unprecedented. You believe me? Naruto asked, surprised by her ready acceptance. Your energy signature is unlike anything in our world, Akino explained, and you clearly possess abilities that don't align with our understanding of magic. Naruto rubbed his temples. So I'm stuck in a world of devils and angels. Just my luck. Can you demonstrate this, chakra? Kiba asked. Naruto nodded, recalling his earlier difficulty. It reacts differently here, but sure. He formed a hand sign, focusing carefully to regulate his chakra flow. A shadow clone popped into existence beside him, causing the devils to react with varying degrees of surprise. Fascinating, Rias breathed. A perfect copy, not an illusion. It's not just a copy. Naruto explained as his clone waved at the group. It's a solid clone that can think and act independently. Whatever it experiences, I'll remember when it disappears. To demonstrate, he dispelled the clone, then described the exact angles from which each devil had been observing it. Useful for reconnaissance, Kaniko noted, speaking more words at once than she had since meeting Naruto. Among other things, Naruto agreed. In my world, I was considered quite powerful. Here, I'm still figuring out how things work. Rias leaned forward, her expression turning serious. Naruto, you've appeared in a world embroiled in ancient conflicts between supernatural powers. The fallen angel who attacked you won't be the last to take interest in your unusual abilities. You'll need allies. Are you offering? Naruto asked directly. I am, Rias confirmed. But I should be transparent. My interest isn't purely altruistic. Your powers could be valuable to my peerage. Peerage. Devils of noble houses can reincarnate others into their service using special artifacts called evil pieces, Kiba explained. We're all members of Rias's peerage. Naruto's expression hardened slightly. I'm not interested in serving anyone. Rias raised a placating hand. I'm not asking you to join my peerage, at least not yet. I'm offering information, protection while you acclimate, and alliance. In return, I only ask that you consider aiding us should we face threats in this territory. Before Naruto could respond, a magic circle appeared on the floor, glowing with silver light. The devils tensed, preparing for a potential threat. Norse magic, Akino questioned, looking to Rias. It appears we have an unexpected visitor, Rias replied, her posture straightening. From the circle emerged a woman who immediately commanded attention. Tall and slender, with long silver gray hair and striking turquoise eyes, she wore what appeared to be a business suit with a short skirt. And carried herself with military precision. Naruto immediately recognized a fellow warrior in her bearing. Rossweisse, Rias greeted with surprise. This is unexpected. Is Lord Odin visiting again? The woman, Rossweisse, shook her head, her eyes fixed on Naruto. No, I've been sent to investigate an unusual energy signature that appeared suddenly in this region. Her gaze intensified. This would be it, I presume. Naruto stood slowly, matching her evaluating stare. Something about this woman put him on even higher alert than the devils had. The power emanating from her felt ancient, disciplined, and formidable. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, he introduced himself, deciding directness was best. Rossweisse, Valkyrie of Asgard and bodyguard to Lord Odin, she replied formally. Your sudden appearance has caused quite a stir among those sensitive to interdimensional disturbances. A Valkyrie? Naruto questioned. Elite warriors in service to the Norse gods, Rias explained quietly. Rossweisse stepped closer, studying Naruto with clinical precision. Your energy signature is unlike anything in the 9 realms. It resembles neither magic nor sacred gear. It's called chakra, Naruto offered, maintaining eye contact. And I'm still figuring out how it works in this world. This world, Rossweisse repeated, her eyes narrowing. So the theories were correct. You're not from any known realm. She circled Naruto slowly, and he could feel her magic probing at his chakra network. He allowed it, curious himself about how his energy appeared to those native to this world. Fascinating, she murmured. Your energy system is entirely different from ours, yet somehow compatible with this reality. She stopped directly in front of him. But there's something else within you, something ancient and powerful. Naruto tensed. She had sensed Kurama. Lord Odin will want to meet you, Rossweisse stated matter-of-factly. And the other faction leaders will soon take notice as well. Your appearance won't go unnoticed for long. I'm not interested in being a curiosity for gods to examine, Naruto replied firmly. Rossweisse's expression remained professional, but Naruto caught a flicker of respect in her eyes. Nevertheless, your presence has implications. If you truly are from another world, we need to understand how you got here and whether others might follow. I barely understand it myself, Naruto admitted. Then perhaps cooperation would benefit both of us, Rossweisse suggested. I can offer insights into this world and its power structures that even the devils cannot provide. Rias stepped forward. Naruto is under my protection as the devil administering this territory. Rossweisse raised an elegant eyebrow. Is he now? Has he agreed to this arrangement? All eyes turned to Naruto, who found himself in the uncomfortable position of mediator between two clearly powerful women. I haven't agreed to anything permanent with anyone, he clarified. I'm gathering information and trying to understand my situation before making any decisions. Rossweisse nodded approvingly. A prudent approach. She turned to Rias. The Norse pantheon acknowledges your territorial rights, Rias Grimori. However, interdimensional travelers fall under different protocols according to the Accords. The Accords didn't anticipate someone like Naruto, Rias countered smoothly. Few things do, Rossweisse agreed, her gaze returning to Naruto. Which is precisely why this situation requires careful handling. The tension in the room was palpable, and Naruto decided it was time to take control of the conversation. Look, he said firmly, drawing both women's attention, I appreciate both of your offers of help and information. But I'm not a prize to be claimed or a weapon to be wielded. I've spent my life fighting for peace and understanding, and I won't become a pawn in conflicts I don't fully comprehend. He looked directly at Rossweisse. I'm happy to meet with Odin or whoever else, but on my terms. As an equal seeking mutual understanding, not as a curiosity or potential asset. Then to Rias, and I'm grateful for your intervention earlier and the information you've shared. But I need time to process everything before agreeing to any alliances. Both women appeared surprised by his directness, though Naruto detected a hint of approval in their expressions. Very well, Rossweisse conceded after a moment. I'll report your position to Lord Odin. But know this, others may not be as respectful of your autonomy. Many beings in this world will see you only as a potential tool or threat. Story of my life, Naruto replied with a wry smile. I've dealt with that attitude before. Rossweisse studied him with renewed interest. I suspect there's much more to your story than you've shared. There is, Naruto acknowledged, just as I'm sure there's more to yours in this world than I've been told so far. The Valkyrie nodded, then reached into a pocket and produced what appeared to be a small crystal. Take this. It will allow you to contact me should you face immediate danger or reconsider meeting with Lord Odin. Naruto accepted the crystal, feeling the magic humming within it. Thanks. Now, Rossweisse said, turning to Rias, I'd like a private word with Naruto, if you don't mind. Rias hesitated, then nodded gracefully. We'll step outside for a moment. Naruto, we'll continue our conversation afterward, if you wish. Once the devils had left the room, Rossweisse's formal demeanor softened slightly. I apologize for the territorial display, she said, her tone more conversational. But it's important you understand your position. Which is? Naruto asked, leaning against a desk. Precarious, Rossweisse answered bluntly. You've appeared in a world where multiple supernatural factions maintain a delicate balance of power. Your abilities, particularly the ancient energy I sense within you, represent an unknown variable in that equation. Naruto nodded. I figured as much. In my world, I was what's called a Jinchuriki, a human containing a tailed beast, specifically the nine-tailed fox, Kurama. He's part of me, and I'm part of him. Rossweisse's eyes widened slightly. That explains the dual nature of your energy. She paused, considering. The Norse pantheon, while not without its flaws, might offer you the most neutral ground. We're less inclined toward the recruitment tactics of devils or the rigid doctrine of angels. And what do you get out of it? Naruto asked directly. A small smile played at Rossweisse's lips. Perceptive. Primarily, information. Your world, your abilities, how you came to be here, these things have value beyond mere curiosity. Additionally, an alliance with someone of your potential strength has obvious benefits. At least you're honest about it, Naruto remarked. Valkyries value truth, even uncomfortable truths, Rossweisse replied. It's how we prepare for battle and for Ragnarok. Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world. Rossweisse explained. A battle that will destroy the gods themselves. Naruto blinked. You're really selling the Norse experience here. This actually drew a small laugh from Rossweisse. We're not all doom and gloom. There's great beauty and wisdom in Asgard as well. She moved closer, her expression turning serious again. One last thing before the devil's return. The energy within you, this nine-tailed fox, is it stable? Kurama and I are partners, Naruto said firmly. We've fought together, nearly died together. He's not a threat to your world. Rossweisse nodded, seemingly satisfied with his conviction. Then I won't press further on that front. She stepped back. You should know that word of your appearance will spread quickly. Be cautious about who you trust. Including you, Naruto challenged with a half smile. Especially me, Rossweisse replied, matching his expression. I serve Asgard first and foremost. But I also value honor and fair dealing. Remember that. She moved toward the door, then paused. The crystal I gave you, use it if you find yourself overwhelmed. Whether or not you accept Odin's invitation, I'd rather not see someone of your uniqueness fall prey to less scrupulous factions. I appreciate that, Naruto said sincerely. Rossweisse opened the door, allowing the devils to re-enter. She gave Naruto one last assessing look before addressing Rias. I'll take my leave now. Lord Odin will be expecting my report. She created a magic circle beneath her feet. We'll meet again soon, Naruto Uzumaki. With that, she disappeared in a flash of silver light. As soon as she was gone, Akeno smiled mischievously. My, you've made quite an impression. First day in our world and already catching the eye of a Valkyrie. Naruto ignored the teasing. She said others will be looking for me soon. How complicated is this going to get? Rias sighed, retaking her seat. Very. The three factions are just the beginning. Norse gods, Greek gods, Hindu deities, yokai, dragons. Our world is filled with powerful beings, many of whom will take interest in someone like you. Great, Naruto muttered. Just what I needed. You don't have to face it alone. Rias offered. My offer of alliance stands. We can provide lodging, information, and support while you acclimate. Naruto considered this. He needed a base of operations, and despite their obvious self-interest, the devils had been straightforward with him so far. All right, he decided. I'll accept your help for now. But I'm keeping my options open, including talking to Odin and his Valkyrie. Rias nodded, apparently satisfied with this arrangement. Then let's begin with the basics you'll need to know about this world, particularly the supernatural elements hidden from human society. As the devils took turns explaining the complex politics and history of their world, Naruto listened carefully, filing away information while contemplating his situation. This world was vastly different from the elemental nations, with power structures and abilities unlike anything he'd known. Yet some things remained familiar: the pursuit of power, the delicate balance between factions, the importance of alliances. Those, at least, he understood well from his years as a shinobi. Night had fallen by the time they finished their explanations. Rias arranged for Naruto to St. in an empty apartment owned by the Grimoire family, promising to help him establish a legal identity in this world. As Naruto stood on the balcony of his new temporary home, staring at the unfamiliar stars, he felt Kurama stirring within him again. "You've landed us in quite a situation, haven't you?" The fox's voice was stronger now, though still distant. "Not like I planned this," Naruto replied softly. "What do you make of it all?" Quote, "This world's energy feels ancient, different, but not incompatible with chakra. Given time, we might adapt better than expected. And the devils, the Valkyrie, can we trust them?" "About as much as we trusted anyone when we first met them," Kurama rumbled. "The devils want power. The Valkyrie serves her gods. Neither is lying about that, at least." Naruto nodded, leaning against the railing. "I miss home, Konoha, our friends. We may find a way back. Or we may not," Kurama said pragmatically. "For now, we adapt. We survive, as we always have." "Yeah," Naruto agreed, his resolve hardening. "Tomorrow we start figuring out how my abilities work here. I need to be ready." "For what?" Naruto looked toward the horizon, where the city lights met the darkness. "For whatever comes next. I don't know much about this world yet, but I know trouble when I feel it." As if in response to his words, the crystal Rossweisse had given him pulsed once with silver light before returning to dormancy. A reminder that he was being watched, evaluated, perhaps even hunted. Naruto closed his fingers around the crystal, feeling its cool surface against his palm. Different world, different players. But the game remained familiar. Navigate the politics, build alliances, prepare for conflict. "Just another day in the life of Naruto Uzumaki," he murmured to himself. A determined smile forming on his face as he turned to go inside. Whatever this world had in store for him, he would face it head-on. After all, that was his ninja way. Chapter 1 End. Chapter 2. The Fox and the Valkyrie. Morning light filtered through unfamiliar curtains as Naruto opened his eyes, momentarily disoriented by his surroundings. The apartment Rias had provided was comfortable but sp. A temporary dwelling that felt as transitional as his current situation. He sat up, running a hand through his messy blonde hair as the previous day's events crystallized in his mind. "Devils, fallen angels, Valkyries," he muttered, shaking his head, "and they think I'm the weird one." He made his way to the kitchen and rummaged through the supplies Rias had arranged for him. As he prepared a simple breakfast, he felt Kurama's consciousness stirring within him. "Settling in already?" The fox's voice carried its usual sardonic tone. "Just trying to keep some normalcy," Naruto replied, speaking aloud in the empty apartment. "How are you feeling?" "Stronger than yesterday. This world's energy is integrating with our chakra system. Slowly, but it's happening." Naruto nodded, feeling the truth of Kurama's assessment. His chakra felt less turbulent today, more responsive to his control. "Good. I have a feeling we're going to need our strength sooner rather than later." After breakfast, Naruto moved to the center of the living room and sat cross-legged on the floor. Meditation had never been his strong suit in his youth, but years of training and partnership with Kurama had changed that. He closed his eyes, focusing inward to the core of his chakra network. Within minutes, he found himself standing before the massive fox in his mindscape. "You look better," Naruto observed, noting that Kurama appeared more substantial than during their brief connection yesterday. The nine tails stretched his enormous form. "This world's energy is different, but not entirely foreign. It's as if chakra and what they call magic share distant origins." "Can we use that?" Naruto asked, walking closer to the fox. "Adapt our techniques to work with this world's rules." Kurama's tail swayed thoughtfully. "Perhaps. Your shadow clones already work, if imperfectly. Try something more complex today, but start small. A Rasengan, not the Rasenshuriken." Naruto nodded, then paused, a more somber thought crossing his mind. "Do you think we'll ever get home? Back to Konoha?" The fox's red eyes fixed on him. "I don't know. The transition between worlds wasn't a technique or a portal, it felt like reality itself tearing. Whatever brought us here was beyond any power I've encountered. So we might be stuck here permanently." "We might," Kurama agreed. "But we've faced worse odds before." Naruto smiled at the reminder. "Yeah, we have." He turned as if to leave, then hesitated. What did you make of that Valkyrie Rossweisse? Kurama's expression became contemplative, powerful, disciplined. Her energy felt ancient, connected to forces older than the shinobi world. She reminds me of the more honorable Anbu from Konoha, dedicated to duty above all. I got that impression too, Naruto said. Think we can trust her? More than the devils, perhaps. But remember, her loyalty is to her pantheon first. With that final thought, Naruto pulled back from his mindscape, opening his eyes to the apartment. The silver crystal Rossweisse had given him sat on the coffee table, catching the morning light. Guess I'll find out soon enough, he murmured, picking it up and slipping it into his pocket. Kuo Academy buzzed with activity as Naruto approached, dressed in casual clothes provided by Rias, jeans and an orange t-shirt that he'd specifically requested. Students moved about the campus, most of them oblivious to the supernatural elements hidden in plain sight. Naruto spotted Kiba waiting at the gate and headed toward him. Good morning, the devil greeted with his usual polite smile. Rias asked me to escort you to the club room. She's gathered some additional information she believes you'll find useful. Lead the way, Naruto replied, falling into step beside the blonde knight. As they walked, Naruto studied the school more carefully than he had yesterday. So many of the students here are completely unaware of devils and magic, huh? Kiba nodded. Most humans go their entire lives without discovering the supernatural world exists. It's safer that way, for them and for us. Where I'm from, chakra users were the norm, not the exception, Naruto commented. Villages full of shinobi, training from childhood. That sounds like quite a different world, Kiba replied, genuine interest in his voice. Was everyone capable of using this chakra? Potentially, yes, though not everyone developed the ability. It's present in all living things, a combination of physical energy from the body and spiritual energy from the mind and experience. Their conversation continued as they made their way to the old school building. When they entered the club room, Naruto found not only the occult research club members waiting but also Rossweisse, standing with perfect posture near one of the windows. Naruto, Rias greeted warmly. I hope you found the accommodations satisfactory. They're great, thanks, he replied before turning to Rossweisse. I didn't expect to see you again so soon. The Valkyrie inclined her head slightly. Lord Odin was most interested in my report. He's requested a more comprehensive demonstration of your abilities. I bet he did, Naruto said with a hint of amusement. And what do I get in return for putting on this show? A flicker of approval crossed Rossweisse's face at his directness. Information. Access to Norse resources that might help explain your arrival. And perhaps insights into how your chakra might better adapt to our world's energy patterns. Rias stepped forward. Before you make any decisions, Naruto, I'd like to share what we've discovered. She gestured to a map spread across a table. There have been other energy anomalies since your arrival, smaller, but similar in nature to the disturbance that coincided with you appearing in our world. Naruto's attention sharpened. You think others from my world might have come through? It's possible, Akeno replied. Or it could be aftereffects of whatever brought you here. Naruto moved to examine the map, noting the marked locations. These are scattered all over. Yes, Rias confirmed. And each occurred within hours of your arrival. Rossweisse joined them at the table. The Norse seers detected these disturbances as well. They believe they're echoes rather than new arrivals, residual energy from the tear between worlds. Either way, Naruto said, straightening, we should investigate. If there's even a chance someone else from my world is here, I need to find them. We've already dispatched familiars to the locations closest to Kuo, Rias informed him. For the others, we'd need to coordinate with supernatural authorities in those regions. Which brings us back to Lord Odin's invitation, Rossweisse added. The Norse have resources and connections throughout Europe. With their support, your search would be considerably more effective. Naruto glanced between Rias and Rossweisse, aware of the subtle competition for his alignment. Both offered valuable assistance, and both clearly had their own agendas. I appreciate both of your help, he said diplomatically. But before I make any decisions about Norse invitations or devil alliances, I want to check out the closest anomaly myself. Rias nodded. A reasonable request. According to our information, the nearest disturbance was detected in a forested area about 20 kilometers from here. I'll accompany you, Rossweisse stated, her tone making it clear this wasn't a request. My abilities allow me to sense residual interdimensional energy that might not be apparent to others. I'll send Akeno with you as well, Rias added, not to be outdone. Her thunder magic makes her our best sensor for unusual energy patterns. Naruto suppressed a smile at their thinly veiled competition. Sounds like a plan. When do we leave? Immediately, if you're prepared, Rossweisse answered. Time may be a factor if these anomalies are fading. 30 minutes later, Naruto found himself in the back seat of a sleek black car. Sitting between Rossweisse and Akeno as Kiba drove them toward the coordinates of the energy disturbance. The contrast between the two women was striking, Akeno with her playful demeanor and Rossweisse's professional reserve. So, Naruto began, breaking the slightly awkward silence, how exactly does magic differ from chakra in this world? Magic draws upon external energies, Rossweisse explained. The power of natural elements, divine blessings, or inherent supernatural traits depending on one's species or affiliation. Whereas your chakra seems to be generated internally, Akeno added. Though it appears to interact with our world's ambient magical energy in interesting ways. Naruto nodded. Chakra comes from within, a combination of physical and spiritual energies. Different techniques require different balances and manipulations of those energies. Can you demonstrate a simple technique? Rossweisse asked, her academic curiosity evident beneath her professional demeanor. Sure, Naruto agreed, raising his hand. He focused carefully, moderating his chakra flow as he created a small Rasengan in his palm, about the size of a golf ball rather than its usual dimensions. Both women leaned closer, studying the swirling blue energy with fascination. Remarkable, Rossweisse murmured. The energy maintains a perfect rotational pattern without dispersing. It's pure shape manipulation, Naruto explained, letting the miniature Rasengan dissipate, containing and shaping chakra without letting it escape. And this would be used for? Akeno inquired, her eyes sparkling with interest. Combat, usually, Naruto admitted. At full size, it's powerful enough to tear through steel and stone. Rossweisse's analytical gaze intensified. Your techniques are primarily martial, then. Designed for battle. Many are, Naruto acknowledged. Where I'm from, shinobi were warriors first and foremost. But chakra has other applications too, healing, sensing, enhancing physical abilities. Transforming one's appearance. Their conversation continued as the car left the city behind, entering more rural areas. Naruto found himself explaining aspects of the shinobi world he'd never had to articulate before, concepts so fundamental to his existence that putting them into words felt strange. We're approaching the coordinates, Kiba announced as the car turned onto a narrow forest road. Naruto felt it before they even stopped the car, a subtle distortion in the air, like the afterimage of a lightning strike. There's definitely something here, he said, his senses sharpening. They exited the vehicle at the edge of a small clearing surrounded by dense forest. Autumn leaves carpeted the ground, their vibrant colors contrasting with the overcast sky above. Spread out, Rossweisse directed, her casual clothing shimmering and transforming into battle attire, a form-fitting blue and white outfit with silver armor components. But maintain visual contact. Akeno moved to the left side of the clearing, her devil wings manifesting as she hovered slightly above the ground. Kiba drew a sword that appeared out of nowhere, moving to the right. Naruto and Rossweisse took the center. Advancing slowly. You sense it? Naruto asked quietly. Rossweisse nodded. Similar to the energy signature you emanate, but more fractured. Naruto closed his eyes briefly, reaching out with his senses. It feels like chakra, but distorted. Like an echo, just like you said. They reached the center of the clearing where the sensation was strongest. The air shimmered slightly, like heat haze on a summer day. This is definitely the spot, Rossweisse confirmed, her palms glowing with Norse runes as she examined the anomaly. The dimensional membrane is thinner here. Naruto knelt, touching the ground. It reminds me of how space-time ninjutsu feels, a thinning between places. As he spoke, the air before them rippled more violently. Rossweisse stepped back, raising defensive runes. While Naruto stood his ground, chakra flowing to his hands instinctively. Something's happening, Akeno called, lightning crackling between her fingertips. The distortion expanded, forming a wavering oval in midair. For a brief moment, Naruto caught a glimpse of something through it, a landscape that looked hauntingly familiar. That's, he began, but the words died in his throat as the portal-like phenomenon collapsed in on itself with a thunderous crack. The shockwave knocked all of them back several meters, uprooting small trees and sending leaves swirling into the air. Naruto recovered first, rolling to his feet in a combat stance. Where the anomaly had been, something now lay on the ground, not a person, but an object. "Everyone okay?" he called, not taking his eyes off the mysterious item. Affirmative responses came from his companions as they regrouped. Rossweisse moved to Naruto's side, a translucent shield of runes still hovering before her. "What is it?" she asked, studying the object. Naruto approached cautiously. As the dust settled, he recognized the item and felt his heart skip a beat. "It's a forehead protector," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "A Konoha Hitai 8. He picked it up, running his thumb over the familiar leaf symbol etched into the metal. "Like the one I used to wear." The metal was scorched and the cloth torn, but there was no mistaking it. More significant was the deep scratch running through the center of the leaf symbol, the mark traditionally made when a shinobi abandoned their village. "This belonged to a rogue ninja from my village," Naruto said, his expression darkening. "But I don't recognize the chakra signature on it." Rossweisse examined it without touching. "It carries the same energy pattern as you, though much weaker. A personal item from your world, perhaps pulled through by your presence here." Naruto nodded slowly, tucking the Hitai 8 into his pocket. "Maybe, or maybe it's a message." "From whom?" Kiba asked, joining them. Before Naruto could respond, a sharp whistling sound cut through the air. Acting purely on instinct, he tackled Rossweisse to the ground as several kunai embed themselves in the tree where she'd been standing. "Ambush!" Akeno shouted, lightning erupting from her hands toward the tree line. Naruto rolled to his feet, pulling Rossweisse up beside him. "Stay alert. These aren't ordinary weapons." More kunai flew from the forest, each trailing paper tags that Naruto recognized immediately. "Explosive tags. Get down," he shouted, forming hand signs rapidly. "Wind style. Great breakthrough." A powerful gust of wind erupted from Naruto, deflecting the kunai and sending them spiraling back toward the forest. Multiple explosions rocked the tree line, sending splinters and smoke into the air. Through the chaos, dark figures emerged, humanoid shapes moving with unnatural speed and coordination. Their faces were obscured by white masks with red markings. "Those masks." Naruto's eyes widened in recognition. "They look like Anbu masks from my world, but wrong somehow." Rossweisse summoned multiple magic circles, firing blasts of Nordic energy at the attackers. Their constructs, magical creations designed to mimic living beings. One of the masked figures appeared directly behind Kiba, striking with a tanto. The Devil Knight barely parried in time, his superior speed saving him from what would have been a lethal blow. Akeno unleashed a barrage of lightning, striking two of the constructs and reducing them to smoldering remnants. "They're after you, Naruto. Their movements are focused on your position." Naruto created a shadow clone that immediately charged toward the forest while he remained by Rossweisse's side. "Someone's controlling them, and they know shinobi tactics. Can you sense the controller?" Rossweisse asked, her back now pressed against Naruto's as they moved in perfect synchronization. "Not clearly," Naruto replied, deflecting another volley of weapons. "But they're familiar with my fighting style. These aren't random attacks." Three constructs converged on their position. Naruto engaged the first with taijutsu, his Phi Saint shattering its mask to reveal a face made of what looked like animated clay. Rossweisse dispatched the second with a precise blast of magic through its chest, while they dodged the third's attack in unison. "They're adapting to our movements," Rossweisse observed as the remaining constructs began to coordinate more effectively. Naruto nodded, feeling a familiar surge of chakra. "Time to change tactics then. Cover me for 3 seconds." Without questioning him, Rossweisse stepped forward, creating a dome of protective runes around them. Outside, Kiba and Akeno continued engaging the constructs, keeping them distracted. Naruto closed his eyes, connecting more deeply with Kurama. "I feel it too," the fox rumbled. "This is shinobi chakra, twisted by this world's magic. Someone from our world is here, watching. Let's show them what we can do." Naruto replied, opening his eyes as golden chakra began to envelop his body. The chakra mode activated more smoothly than he'd expected, his body glowing with Kurama's power. Rossweisse glanced at him, momentarily stunned by his transformation. "What is this?" "My partner lending me his strength," Naruto replied, his voice overlaid with a deeper resonance. "Drop the shield on my mark." She nodded, her professional composure returning despite the surprise. "Ready, now." The shield vanished, and Naruto moved with blinding speed. To the others, he appeared as little more than a golden flash as he tore through the remaining constructs in seconds, chakra arms extending from his body to crush multiple enemies simultaneously. When he finally stopped, standing at the edge of the forest, no constructs remained. The clearing fell silent except for the gentle drift of dust and debris. "Impressive," Rossweisse said, approaching him as his golden chakra mode faded. "That power, it was the energy I sensed within you yesterday." Naruto nodded. "Kurama, the nine-tailed fox. We share this power." Before more could be said, Naruto sensed AP Recents retreating rapidly through the forest, too fast for ordinary means of travel. "They're getting away," he called, preparing to pursue. Rossweisse placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. "Wait, this may be another trap. We should." Her words were cut short as the ground beneath them erupted. A massive earth technique, one Naruto recognized as similar to Earth's style, mobile core, sent them both flying in opposite directions. Naruto managed to right himself midair, landing in a crouch, but Rossweisse was caught by surprise, the attack clearly not following the magical patterns she was accustomed to defending against. As she fell, a figure blurred from the trees, moving directly toward the Valkyrie with weapon drawn. Naruto's enhanced senses captured details in the split second before H.E. moved. A tall figure dressed in black and gray, face hidden behind a mask that resembled a hawk, but with strange runes etched into its surface. Naruto didn't hesitate. A Rasengan formed in his palm. As he flash-stepped between Rossweisse and her attacker. Rasengan. The spiraling sphere of chakra collided with the assailant's chest, but instead of the expected impact, the figure dissolved into black smoke on contact. A substitution technique, but unlike any Naruto had seen before. The real attacker reappeared at the forest's edge, too distant for clear identification, but close enough for Naruto to hear his words. "The legacy of the shinobi world lives on, Naruto Uzumaki. This world will burn in black fire before we're done." Then the figure was gone, leaving only disturbed foliage in his wake. Naruto helped Rossweisse to her feet as Kiba and Akeno joined them, both looking battered but unharmed. "Who was that?" Akeno asked, her usual playful demeanor replaced by serious concern. "I don't know," Naruto admitted. "But they knew me, and they used techniques from my world, modified, adapted to work with this world's energy." Rossweisse dusted herself off, her analytical mind already working through the implications. "Those constructs were animated by a combination of your chakra and our world's magic. A hybrid approach that shouldn't be possible for someone who just arrived here. Unless they've been here longer than me," Naruto suggested grimly. "Or they have knowledge they shouldn't possess," Rossweisse added. Kiba surveyed the destruction around them. "Whatever the case, they were well prepared and specifically targeting you, Naruto." Naruto nodded, his expression hardening as he pulled the scratched Hitai-8 from his pocket. "This was a message. They wanted me to know they're here. The question is why," Rossweisse said, moving closer to examine the forehead protector again. "What does this symbol mean in your world?" "The leaf represents Konohagakure, the village hidden in the leaves, my home," Naruto explained. "The scratch through it means the owner rejected or was banished from the village, a rogue ninja." A deliberate statement, then, Rossweisse observed. "Declaring themselves separate from your allegiances." Naruto's fingers tightened around the metal plate. "Yeah, but there's something else." He closed his eyes, focusing on the faint chakra signature still clinging to the object. "It feels familiar somehow, but distorted. Like looking at a reflection in troubled water." Akeno began creating a magic circle. "We should report this to Rias immediately. If there are others from your world here with hostile intent, all factions need to be warned." "Agreed," Rossweisse said. "I must inform Lord Odin as well. This development changes things significantly." She turned to Naruto, her professional demeanor softening slightly. "You fought well. Our styles complement each other effectively." Naruto managed a small smile despite the tension. We do make a good team. As they prepared to depart, Naruto created several shadow clones to scout the surrounding area, though he doubted they would find anything. Whoever had orchestrated this CK was clearly skilled enough to cover their tracks. Back at the Occult Research Club room, Naruto finished recounting the encounter to Rias and the others. The scratched Hittite sat on the table between them, its significance weighing heavily on the room. This complicates matters, Rias said after a moment of contemplation. If there are indeed others from your world here with hostile intentions toward you specifically, your presence in my territory puts all of Kuo at risk. I understand, Naruto replied solemnly. I can leave if. That's not what I meant, Rias interrupted. I'm saying, we need to strengthen our defenses and accelerate our information gathering. If we can identify this mysterious attacker before they strike again, we'll have the advantage. Rossweisse, who had Rima after sending her initial report to Asgard, stepped forward. There's another option to consider. Lord Odin has extended his formal invitation for Naruto to visit Asgard, not merely as a curiosity to be studied, but as an honored guest under his protection. All eyes turned to the Valkyrie as she continued. Asgard's libraries contain knowledge spanning multiple worlds and dimensions. Lars have studied interdimensional travel for millennia. If answers about how Naruto arrived here, and how others might have followed, exist anywhere, it's there. And Asgard's defenses are legendary, Kiba noted. Few would dare launch an attack within its walls. Naruto considered the offer, weighing his options. How long would this visit last? Initially, a few days, Rossweisse replied. Long enough to consult with our seers and scholars. Long enough to determine if Asgard's resources can help you understand your situation better. And if I choose to go, Naruto asked, looking directly at Rossweisse, would you be there? A flicker of surprise crossed the Valkyrie's features before her composed expression returned. Yes, as Lord Odin's bodyguard, I would be assigned to you during your stay. Naruto nodded slowly. Then I accept. But first, I want to investigate one more of these anomalies, the one closest to where we were attacked today. If someone from my world is here, I need to understand what we're dealing with. I'll accompany you, Rossweisse stated immediately. As will I, Rias added, not to be outdone. My peerage will continue monitoring the other anomalies while we're gone. As arrangements were made for the next day's investigation, Naruto found himself drawn to the window, staring out at the setting sun. The scratched Hittite weighed heavily in his pocket, a tangible reminder that he wasn't alone in this world, and that not all connections to his past were welcome ones. Someone with knowledge of our world is here, Kurama's voice resonated in his mind. Someone powerful enough to adapt shinobi techniques to this world's energy. And they know me, Naruto added silently. They targeted me specifically. We'll find them, Kurama assured him. But be wary of this invitation to Asgard as well. Gods rarely extend hospitality without purpose. Naruto glanced toward Rossweisse, who was engaged in serious conversation with Rias. The Valkyrie's posture remained formal, but there was an intensity to her that went beyond mere duty. Whether it was curiosity about his abilities or something else, he couldn't yet tell. I know, he replied to Kurama. But right now, we need allies and information. If Asgard can provide either, it's worth the risk. The fox rumbled in agreement before withdrawing deeper into their shared consciousness. Naruto continued watching Rossweisse, noting how the evening light caught in her silver hair. Despite the professional distance she maintained, there had been moments during their battle, brief instances of perfect synchronization, of mutual understanding without words, that reminded him of fighting alongside his closest comrades back home. In a world filled with unfamiliar faces and powers, that connection, however tentative, meant something. The next morning brought heavy rain to Kuo town, water cascading down windows and transforming streets into glistening rivers. Naruto stood in the shelter of a bus stop, waiting for Rossweisse and Rias as arranged. The second anomaly they planned to investigate was located in an abandoned industrial area on the town's outskirts. He sensed Rossweisse's approach seeing her. Her energy signature was becoming familiar to him now. She appeared around the corner wearing a practical raincoat, her silver hair tucked beneath the hood. Good morning, she greeted, stepping under the shelter. Rias contacted me, She's been delayed by devil business but will join us at the site. Naruto nodded. Just the two of us, then. For the journey, yes. Rossweisse's eye south scanned the street methodically before returning to him. After yesterday's encounter, we should remain vigilant. Our unknown adversary may be watching. I've had shadow clones patrolling since dawn, Naruto informed her. Nothing suspicious so far. Approval flickered across Rossweisse's features. Efficient. Those duplicates of yours have impressive range. They've saved my life more times than I can count. Naruto replied as they began walking toward the train station. Though they're still not working quite right in this world, they dispel too easily. Your chakra is still adapting, Rossweisse observed. In Asgard, we might be able to help accelerate that process. Our understanding of energy harmonization is quite advanced. Their conversation continued as they boarded the train, keeping to neutral topics while surrounded by ordinary commuters. Naruto found himself studying Rossweisse when she wasn't looking directly at him. The precise way she moved, the alertness that never Yuli left her eyes even in casual moments. You've been a Valkyrie for a long time, he asked as their train left the more populated areas behind. Since my youth, she confirmed. I was identified RLY as having the potential and began training while still a child. No choice in the matter. A small smile touched her lips. There's always choice, but when you're shown a purpose that resonates with everything you are, the choice becomes clear. Didn't you feel the same when you became a shinobi? Naruto considered this. Not exactly. Being a shinobi was complicated for me. I didn't fit in at first. Had to prove myself every step of the way. Because of the 9 tails? Rossweisse asked quietly. He looked at her in surprise. How did you? I've been researching since our encounter, she explained. Norse mythology includes many tales of humans bonded with powerful entities. The concept isn't foreign to us. She paused, then added, it can't have been easy, carrying such a burden as a child. The simple acknowledgement, stated without pity or judgment, caught Naruto off guard. It wasn't, but Kurama and I found our way to partnership eventually. Made each other stronger. Rossweisse nodded thoughtfully. In Norse tradition, such partnerships are respected. Power freely given is more valuable than power taken or coerced. Your boss, Odin, what's he like? Naruto asked, changing the subject slightly. A complex expression crossed Rossweisse's face, respect mingled with exasperation. Lord Odin is the Allfather, keeper of wisdom, master of runes, leader of the Aesir. He's a LSO, an insufferable old man with inappropriate habits and a fondness for mortal women that brings shame to Asgard. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at her sudden candor. Sounds a bit like my old teacher, Jiraiya. Legendary sage, incredible shinobi, terrible pervert. For the first time since they'd met, Rossweisse's professional demeanor cracked completely as she let out a small laugh of her own. Then you'll be well prepared for Lord Odin. Just don't encourage his behavior. It's difficult enough keeping him focused on his duties without accomplices. Their shared amusement created a moment of genuine connection. Brief but meaningful. As it faded, Rossweisse seemed to realize she'd let her guard down and straightened in her seat, though her expression remained less severe than before. We're approaching our stop, she noted, rising as the train began to slow. The industrial district greeted them with abandoned warehouses and rusting equipment, all made more desolate by the steady rainfall. Naruto created several shadow clones that dispersed in different directions to secure the perimeter while he and Rossweisse made their way toward the coordinates of the anomaly. The energy signa, Chure is stronger here than yesterday's location, Rossweisse observed, her hand glowing with runic magic as she scanned their surroundings. More stable too, Naruto nodded, feeling it himself. It's like a window that hasn't quite closed. He pointed toward a particular warehouse. There. That's the center. They approached cautiously, alert for any signs of another ambush. The warehouse door hung partially open, creaking softly in the wind. Inside, water dripped from the damaged roof, creating a constant patter against the concrete floor. The space was largely empty except for a few abandoned crates and rusting machinery. And at its center, unmistakable even in the dim light, a shimmering distortion in the air. This is different, Rossweisse said quietly, moving closer. More developed than yesterday's anomaly. The distortion resembled a tear in reality itself, approximately 2 meters tall and wavering like heat haze. Through it, Naruto could occasionally glimpse fragments of another place, trees, stone. What might have been a pathway? I know that place, he breathed, stepping closer despite Rossweisse's warning hand. That's the path to the Valley of the End, back in my world. As if responding to his recognition, the tear widened slightly, the images beyond becoming clearer. Naruto felt a pull toward it, an instinctive longing to step through, to return home. Naruto, wait, Rossweisse urged, gripping his arm firmly. This could be unstable or a trap. He stopped, recognizing the wisdom in her caution even as his heart ached at the sight of his world so tantalizingly close. You're right, we don't know what this is or who created it. Rossweisse moved to his side, her magic forming complex patterns as she analyzed the phenomenon. It's not a true portal. More like a memory in space. An afterimage of the tear that brought you here. Before Naruto could respond, one of his shadow clone's memories suddenly flooded his consciousness, a warning. Someone's coming. Multiple signatures, moving fast. Quote, Rossweisse immediately shifted to a battle stance, her casual clothing transforming in a flash of light to her Valkyrie armor. How many? At least 5. Not the same as yesterday. These feel different. Less human. No sooner had he spoken than the warehouse doors burst open. Creatures that resembled wolves, but with bodies comprised of what looked like living shadow, poured in. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness, jaws open to reveal teeth like shards of obsidian. Hellhounds, Rossweisse identified grimly. Corrupted beasts from Helheim. Someone's pulled them into Midgard. Naruto created 2 shadow clones that moved to flank the creatures while he positioned himself protectively in front of the spatial anomaly. Friends of yours? Hardly, Rossweisse replied, summoning a spear of light to her hand. They serve Hel, goddess of death, not Asgard. The hellhounds circled warily, sizing up their prey. Without warning, one lunged toward Rossweisse. Moving faster than any natural wolf. She met it midair with her spear, the weapon piercing through shadow flesh with a sound like tearing silk. The creature dissolved into black mist. 2 more attacked Naruto simultaneously. He dodged the first and caught the second by its throat, surprised to find the shadow substance solid beneath his grip. With a burst of chakra through his arm, he shattered the creature like glass. Thereafter the anomaly, Rossweisse called, noticing how the remaining hounds were trying to maneuver around them toward the spatial tier. Not happening, Naruto responded, forming a Rasengan in each hand. He slammed one into the floor, creating a shockwave that disrupted the hounds' coordination, then used the momentary advantage to eliminate another with the second Rasengan. Rossweisse moved with the fluid grace of a warrior born, her spear and magic working in perfect harmony as she dispatched the 4th hound. The last creature, seemingly recognizing its disadvantage, turned to flee. Before it could escape, a bolt of crimson energy struck it from behind, reducing it to wisps of shadow. Rias Grimori stood in the doorway, her hand still raised from casting the spell. It appears I missed most of the excitement, she observed, stepping inside. Though I suspect these were merely scouts. Scouts for what? Naruto asked, letting his remaining shadow clone dispel. Or whom? Rossweisse added grimly, her eyes on the anomaly. Someone doesn't want us investigating these disturbances. Rias approached the spatial tear, studying it with evident fascination. As that, my world, Naruto confirmed, or at least an image of it. As the 3 of them gathered around the anomaly, a new presence made itself known, a prickling sensation at the edge of Naruto's awareness. Followed by a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The boundaries between worlds have grown thin, Naruto Uzumaki. They spun to find a figure standing near the warehouse entrance, tall and lean. Dressed in a strange combination of traditional Japanese clothing and what appeared to be modern tactical gear. His face was obscured by a mask that covered the lower half of his features. But his eyes were visible, dark and penetrating. Who are you? Naruto demanded, chakra flaring in preparation for battle. The figure tilted his head slightly. An interested observer. You may call me Shimura. The name sent a chill through Naruto. Shimura had been the surname of Danzo, one of Konoha's most controversial elders and the leader of Root. You're from my world, Naruto stated rather than asked. In a manner of speaking, Shimura replied cryptically. I've walked between worlds for longer than you might imagine. The tear that brought you here was unexpected, but not unwelcome. Rossweisse stepped forward, her spear pointed toward the intruder. You're responsible for the hellhounds. Only a practitioner of death magic could command them in Midgard. Shimura's eyes crinkled slightly, suggesting a smile beneath his mask. Perceptive, Valkyrie. Yes, I sent them, not to attack you, but to test you. To see how you work together. Why? Rias demanded, crimson energy gathering around her hands. Knowledge is power, Shimura responded simply. And I have great interest in how Shinobi Chakra interacts with this world's magic. Your little partnership is quite informative. His gaze returned to Naruto. You should know that you weren't the only one brought here, Naruto Uzumaki. Others came before you, and more will follow. The boundaries are weakening. Before any of them could respond, Shimura's right eye changed, the dark iris shifting to reveal a pattern Naruto recognized with shock. A Sharingan. That's impossible, Naruto exclaimed. Many things, once thought impossible or merely improbable, Shimura replied. This eye is but one of many gifts I've acquired in my journeys. The Sharingan began to spin, and suddenly the spatial anomaly behind them pulsed violently, expanding and contracting in unstable rhythms. I wouldn't linger if I were you, Shimura advised calmly. That tear is about to collapse rather dramatically. When next we meet, Naruto Uzumaki, we'll have much more to discuss. With those words, he simply faded, like a mirage dissolving in the air. He's right, Rossweisse said urgently, her magic flaring as she attempted to stabilize the anomaly. This is collapsing. We need to evacuate immediately. Naruto hesitated, looking back at the wavering image of his homeworld. But if this is a way back, it's not, Rossweisse insisted, grabbing his arm. It's a reflection, nothing more. And now it's becoming a bomb. The urgency in her voice convinced him. Together with Rias, they rushed from the warehouse just as the anomaly emitted a high-pitched whine. They barely made it to a safe distance before a flash of light erupted from the building, followed by an implosion that caused the entire structure to collapse in on itself. When the dust settled, nothing remained but rubble and a strange, perfect circle of scorched earth where the anomaly had been. Well, Rias commented dryly, brushing debris from her uniform. I believe that confirms there's something significant happening with these dimensional disturbances. And that this Shimura knows far more than he's sharing, Rossweisse added, her expression troubled. The Sharingan he possessed. What is its significance, Naruto? Naruto stared at the destroyed warehouse, his mind racing with implications. It's a bloodline ability from my world, incredibly rare and powerful. Allows the user to copy techniques, see through illusions, even manipulate space and time in certain circumstances. He turned to Rossweisse. But all the Sharingan users I knew are either dead or not here. Could he have stolen it, as he implied? Rias asked. Possibly, Naruto conceded. But to make it work in this world, integrated with its magic, that would take incredible knowledge and power. Rossweisse's hand came to rest on his shoulder, the touch unexpectedly comforting. We should return to Kuo and prepare for our departure to Asgard. After this encounter, I believe Lord Odin will want to meet with you even more urgently. Naruto nodded, his resolve strengthening. Yeah, we need answers, and it sounds like Asgard might be our best chance of finding them. As they left the industrial district behind, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that Shimura had revealed himself deliberately, not to confront them, but to observe their reactions, to gauge their capabilities. The calculated nature of the encounter reminded him uncomfortably of how Danzo had operated back in Konoha. Kurama's voice rumbled within him. It felt wrong, tainted by this world's energy. But powerful nonetheless. Whoever he is, he knows about us, Naruto replied silently. And he's been preparing for our arrival. Then we'll need to be prepared for him, the fox growled. This journey to Asgard may prove more valuable than expected. The Occult Research Club room was unusually crowded that evening. In addition to the regular members, Sona Citri and her queen Subik. I had joined them following Rias's report about the warehouse incident. The two student council members listened intently as Naruto recounted his encounter with Shimura. A human with a Sharingan and knowledge of multiple worlds. Sona summarized, adjusting her glasses. This represents a significant unknown variable in an already complex situation. Lord Odin has been informed, Rossweisse added. He's accelerated the preparations for Naruto's visit to Asgard. We're expected to depart tomorrow morning. Rias looked to Naruto. Are you certain about this? Once in Asgard, you'll be beyond my ability to assist should complications arise. I need answers, Naruto replied simply. About how I got here, about Shimura, about these anomalies. If Asgard can provide them, that's where I need to go. Akeno smiled mischievously. Besides, he'll have our silver-haired Valkyrie to protect him. A slight coloring appeared on Rossweisse's cheeks, though her expression remained dignified. I will be fulfilling my duty as Lord Odin's representative, nothing more. Of course, Akeno agreed, her tone suggesting she believed otherwise. Sona cleared her throat, bringing the conversation back to more serious matters. The destruction of the anomaly suggests these dimensional disturbances may not be stable. We should proceed with caution when investigating the others. Agreed, Rias said. My Rage will continue monitoring the remaining anomalies in this region while Naruto is in Asgard. As the meeting concluded and the others began to disperse, Rossweisse approached Naruto privately. Be ready at dawn, she instructed. The Bifrost is most easily accessed during the transition from night to day. Naruto nodded. I'll be ready. Should I bring anything specific? Just yourself, she replied. Then, after a brief hesitation, she added in a softer tone, and perhaps prepare yourself mentally. Asgard can be overwhelming for first-time visitors. The Aesir aren't known for their subtlety. I've dealt with gods before, Naruto said with a small smile. Though they were a bit different than yours, I imagine. Perhaps not as different as you might think, Rossweisse responded. Power tends to shape beings in similar ways. Regardless of origin, she turned to leave, but Naruto gently caught her wrist. The contact seemed to surprise both of them. Thank you, he said simply. For your help today, for how you handled the situation. Rossweisse's professional demeanor softened momentarily. We worked well together. Your instincts in battle complement my techniques effectively. Almost like we'd trained together before, Naruto agreed, releasing her wrist. Almost, she echoed, a hint of something unidentifiable in her eyes. Until tomorrow, Naruto Uzumaki. As she left, Naruto found himself watched by Rias, whose expression carried knowing amusement. The Valkyrie seems to be warming to you, she observed. That's unusual. Rossweisse is known for keeping professional distance, especially from those outside Asgard. Naruto shrugged. Fighting alongside someone creates bonds. Any shinobi knows that. Indeed, Rias agreed, though her smile suggested she suspected something more. Regardless, this visit to Asgard represents an important opportunity. The Norse have knowledge that even devils don't possess about the structure of reality and the connections between worlds. And what do you get out of this? Naruto asked directly. You've been helpful since I arrived, but I know devils don't act without purpose. Rias's smile didn't waver. Perceptive. Yes, I have my reasons. Chief among them is my responsibility to this territory. Understanding you and these anomalies is necessary to fulfill that duty. And, she continued, alliances with powerful beings benefit my house and standing among devils. I won't pretend otherwise. Naruto appreciated her honesty. At least you're straightforward about it. We devils may be many things, but in personal dealings, I prefer clarity. Rias replied. Now, you should rest. Tomorrow you enter the realm of gods and monsters. You'll need your strength. As Naruto left the old school building, the evening air cool against his face. He found himself thinking not of Asgard or Shimura or even the glimpse of home he'd seen through the anomaly, but of Rossweisse, the subtle shift in her demeanor when they'd fought together. The brief moments when her professional mask had slipped to reveal something more. You're developing an interest in the Valkyrie, Kurama observed, his mental voice carrying a hint of amusement. She's an ally in a strange world, Naruto replied defensively. Nothing more. If you say so, the fox rumbled skeptically. Though I notice you don't react the same way to the devil girl's attention. Naruto had no good response to that observation. Instead, he changed the subject. What do you make of this Shimura character? Dangerous, Kurama answered immediately, all amusement gone from his tone. He has knowledge he shouldn't possess and power that doesn't belong in this world. The fact that he's been watching you suggests a deeper plan. Yeah, Naruto agreed grimly. And I Get the feeling we've only seen the beginning of it. As dawn approached the next day, Naruto stood on the roof of his apartment building, a small pack containing his few possessions slung over his shoulder. The sky was just beginning to lighten, stars still visible in the western horizon while the east glowed with the promise of sunrise. He sensed Rossweisse's arrival before he saw her energy. Y's signature becoming increasingly familiar to him. She appeared at the roof access door, dressed in her full Valkyrie regalia. The armor gleamed silver in the pre-dawn light, intricate Norse runes etched into its surface. "You're punctual," she noted approvingly, a good quality when dealing with immortals who measure time in centuries. "Didn't want to keep the gods waiting," Naruto replied with a slight smile. "How exactly does this Bifrost thing work?" Rossweisse moved to stand beside him, looking toward the lightening sky. "The Bifrost is a celestial bridge connecting the 9 realms. For those not born to it, the transition can be intense. Meaning," her lips curved in what might have been a subtle smirk, "meaning you might want to brace yourself." Before Naruto could respond, Rossweisse raised her face to the sky and spoke in a language he didn't recognize, ancient words that seemed to resonate with the air itself. A circle of runic symbols appeared beneath their feet, glowing with golden light. "Heimdall," she called in a clear, commanding voice. "Open the Bifrost." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sky directly above them seemed to tear open, and a column of multicolored light descended, enveloping them completely. Naruto felt his body lift from the roof, pulled upward at incredible speed. The sensation was unlike any transportation technique he'd experienced. Not the instantaneous displacement of the flying thunder god, but a journey through what felt like the fabric of reality itself. Colors streaked past his vision, blues and golds and purples so vivid they seemed alive. He was vaguely aware of Rossweisse beside him, her hand gripping his arm to keep them together in the stream of light. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the journey ended. Naruto's feet touched solid ground, and the light receded, revealing their destination. Asgard. The realm of the Norse gods spread before them, a vision that defied mortal architecture and natural laws alike. Golden spires reached toward the heavens, connected by bridges that seemed to be made of pure light. Waterfalls flowed upward in defiance of gravity before cascading down in glittering arcs. In the distance, a massive tree was visible, impossibly large, its branches extending beyond what should have been the horizon. They stood in a domed observatory of some kind, its walls etched with the same runic sea patterns Naruto had seen on Rossweisse's armor. At its center stood a towering figure, a man with golden armor and eyes that seemed to see through Naruto rather than at him. "Heimdall," Rossweisse greeted with respect. "Thank you for opening the way." The figure, Heimdall, nodded slightly. "The Allfather awaits you in the Great Hall." His gaze shifted to Naruto, penetrating and ancient. "The travel between worlds brings change in his wake. The Norns are restless." "Cryptic as always," Rossweisse commented with what sounded like fond exasperation. "Come, Naruto. We shouldn't keep Lord Odin waiting." As they stepped onto the rainbow bridge that connected the observatory to the city proper, Naruto found his voice again. "That was something," he managed, still processing the journey and the impossible vista before him. "Is everything here so excessive?" Rossweisse suggested with a hint of amusement. "Gods aren't known for subtlety. The Aesir particularly enjoy their grandeur." They walked along the bridge, which shimmered with energy beneath their feet. Naruto could see the cosmos below them, stars and nebulae swirling in patterns that made no sense to his mortal understanding. "Try not to stare too openly," Rossweisse advised quietly. "The Asgardians respect strength and composure. Appearing overwhelmed will diminish you in their eyes." Naruto straightened his posture, adopting the confidence he'd carried as Hokage during diplomatic missions. "Got it. So what should I expect from Odin?" "Questions. Many questions," Rossweisse replied as they approached the city gates. "Be honest but not subservient. Lord Odin values truth and courage over flattery." The gates opened as they approached, revealing streets paved with what appeared to be polished moonstone. Asgardians moved about their business, beings who resembled humans but carried themselves with the unmistakable bearing of immortality. Many nodded respectfully to Rossweisse as they passed. "You're well respected here," Naruto observed. "I fulfill my duties," she replied simply, though he detected a hint of pride in her voice. Valkyries hold an honored position in Asgardian society. We are both warriors and diplomats, serving as Lord Odin's hands throughout the 9 realms. They continued through the city, passing gardens where plants Naruto couldn't identify bloomed with impossible colors, and training grounds where warriors clashed with weapons that left trails of light in the air. Finally, they arrived at the base of an immense structure that could only be the Great Hall Heimdall had mentioned. Valhalla, Rossweisse informed him, noting his odd expression. Hall of the Slain, where the greatest warriors feast with the gods until Ragnarok. The building defied conventional architecture, its walls seemed to shift subtly as they watched, golden pillars supporting a roof that appeared to be made of interlocking shields. The entrance was flanked by 2 massive statues of wolves, their eyes following visitors with unnerving awareness. Are those Jerry and Freki, Odin's wolves? Rossweisse confirmed. Just statues, though they do serve as guardians of a sort. Don't make any sudden movements as we pass them. Naruto nodded, following her lead as they approached the entrance. The statues' eyes tracked them, but otherwise remained inanimate. As they passed between the wolves, Naruto felt a strange sensation, as if something had brushed against his mind, evaluating him. Inside, Valhalla was even more impressive than its exterior suggested. The ceiling soared impossibly high, adorned with constellations that moved and shifted. Long tables stretched the length of the hall, though only a few were occupied at this early hour. At the far end, upon a raised dais, sat a single throne of dark wood inlaid with gold and silver runes. And upon that throne sat a figure that could only be Odin. He appeared as an older man with a full white beard and a patch over one eye, dressed in ornate armor and robes. Despite his seemingly advanced age, power radiated from him in palpable waves. When his single eye fixed on Naruto, it felt as though the weight of centuries pressed against him. So, Odin's voice boomed throughout the hall, though he spoke at conversational volume. This is the traveler who has caused such a stir in the realms. Rossweisse led Naruto forward until they stood before the dais. She knelt briefly in respect, though Naruto noticed she kept her head raised, deference without submission. Lord Odin, she addressed him formally. I present Naruto Uzumaki of the Elemental Nations, bearer of the 9-tailed fox and shinobi of Konohagakure. Naruto bowed slightly, respectful but not subservient, as Rossweisse had advised. Odin studied him with his single eye, which seemed to see far more than physical appearance. Interesting. Very interesting. The god stroked his beard thoughtfully. You've traveled far, young one, though not by choice if I understand correctly. That's right, Naruto confirmed. I was fighting a battle in my world when something tore. Next thing I knew, I was here. And bringing fragments of your world with you, Odin noted. Rossweisse has informed me of these spatial anomalies and your encounter with this Chimera. The god rose from his throne, descending the steps of the dais with surprising agility for one who appeared so aged. Up close, the power emanating from him was even more overwhelming, ancient and vast beyond mortal comprehension. Walk with me, Naruto Uzumaki, Odin commanded, though his tone was not unkind. Rossweisse, remain close. I wish to hear more about yesterday's confrontation. They followed Odin through a side door and into a private garden where an ancient ash tree grew in the center. The god moved to a stone bench beneath its branches, gesturing for Naruto to join him. Now, Odin said once they were seated, Rossweisse standing attentively nearby, tell me about this 9-tailed fox you carry within you. That's not a burden one typically bears without significant cause. Naruto glanced at Rossweisse, who gave a subtle nod of encouragement. Kurama, the 9 tails, was sealed inside me when I was an infant, Naruto began. Where I'm from, tailed beasts are ancient beings of pure chakra. They were often sealed within human hosts called Jinchuriki. A living prison, Odin mused. Yet you speak of this Kurama as a partner. Not a prisoner. That's what we became, eventually, Naruto confirmed. It took years and a lot of struggle, but we found mutual respect. Now we fight together, share power willingly. Odin's eye gleamed with interest. May I speak with this entity? The request surprised Naruto. You want to talk to Kurama? If he's willing, Odin replied. Beings of great age often have much to discuss. Naruto closed his eyes, connecting with his inner world. Did you hear that? I did, Kurama rumbled. This, Allfather, is powerful beyond mortal measure. Ancient, like the Sage of Six Paths. But different. I'm curious about him as well. Allow it. Naruto opened his eyes. He's willing. But I should warn you, Kurama can be a bit direct. Oden's laugh was like distant thunder. As am I, young man. As am I. Naruto felt Kurama's consciousness rise closer to the surface, a familiar warmth spreading through his body. His features shifted slightly, canines lengthening, whisker marks deepening, and his blue eyes bleeding into crimson with slitted pupils. Oden Borson, Kurama's deeper voice emerged from Naruto's mouth. The Wanderer, the Allfather. Your reputation extends even beyond the boundaries of worlds. Rossweisse tensed visibly at the transformation, but Oden merely leaned forward with fascination. Nine-tailed fox, Oden greeted. You are not of the beasts of Ragnarok. Yet your power sings a similar song. How curious. I am Kurama, eldest of the nine-tailed beasts created by the Sage of Six Paths. My siblings and I were born from the 10 tails, an entity of primordial chakra. Creation from division, Oden mused. Not unlike how Ymir's body formed the worlds. Tell me, Fox Spirit, what do you sense of Asgard? Does it feel familiar to you in any way? Kurama took a moment before responding. There are resonances. Your world's energy is not chakra, yet it follows similar patterns. It feels ancient, like the natural energy of my world, but more deliberate. Shaped by conscious will over eons. Perceptive, Oden acknowledged. The 9 realms were indeed shaped by conscious will, the will of the first gods. What you sense is the echo of that creation. Their conversation continued, delving into esoteric aspects of energy and reality that Naruto only partially understood. Throughout, Rossweisse watched with barely concealed amazement, clearly surprised by the civil exchange between the god and the tailed beast. Eventually, Kurama receded, returning control to Naruto, whose features reverted to normal. Fascinating, Oden declared. Truly fascinating. Your companion is a being of considerable wisdom and power, Naruto Uzumaki. You are fortunate in your partnership. I know, Naruto agreed sincerely. Oden turned his attention to more immediate matters. Now, regarding this Shimura and the dimensional disturbances, I believe they are connected to a larger pattern we've been observing. The boundaries between realms have been growing thinner for some time, but your arrival seems to have accelerated the process. So I'm causing these anomalies? Naruto asked with concern. Not causing, Oden corrected. Catalyzing, perhaps. Your passage between worlds created a template that others might follow, intentionally or not. Rossweisse stepped forward. Lord Oden, you mentioned a pattern. Do you suspect deliberate manipulation? The god's expression darkened. Indeed, someone is taking advantage of these weakened boundaries. Someone with knowledge of both worlds and the skill to navigate between them. Shimura, Naruto concluded grimly. Perhaps, Oden agreed, though I suspect he may be but a piece of a larger game. He rose from the bench, towering over Naruto despite his apparently aged form. You will remain in Asgard for a time. Our scholars will work with you to understand how your chakra interacts with our magic. Perhaps together, we can determine how to stabilize these breaches. The god's eye twinkled suddenly with mischief. And Rossweisse will continue as your guide and protector. She has already demonstrated an effective compatibility with your fighting style. Rossweisse cleared her throat, a faint color rising to her cheeks. As you command, Lord Oden. Excellent. Oden clapped his hands together. Tonight, we feast in your honor, Naruto Uzumaki. The arrival of a warrior from beyond the 9 realms is cause for celebration. With that pronouncement, the god turned and strode away, his robes billowing dramatically behind him. Once Oden was out of earshot, Naruto turned to Rossweisse. Is he always so theatrical? She supplied with a small smile. Yes, the Allfather appreciates dramatic moments. It comes with being a god for thousands of years, I suppose. Naruto let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He's incredibly powerful. I could feel it pressing against me the whole time we talked. Few beings in any realm match Lord Oden's power, Rossweisse acknowledged. Though he restrains it significantly in direct interactions. What you felt was merely a fraction of his true essence. She gestured for him to follow as they exited the garden. I'll show you to your quarters. You'll want to rest before tonight's feast. Asgardian celebrations can be demanding. As they walked through Valhalla's vast corridors, Naruto found himself studying Rossweisse with new eyes. Here in her home realm, surrounded by the trappings of her culture and position, she carried herself with even greater confidence. The silver of her hair caught the ethereal light filtering through crystalline windows, creating a halo effect that emphasized her otherworldly nature. "What?" she asked, noticing his gaze. "Nothing," Naruto replied quickly. "Just trying to take everything in. This place is incredible." "It is," she agreed, a hint of pride in her voice. "Asgard has been my home since I was chosen as a Valkyrie. Though I spend much time in Midgard, your Earth, on Lord Odin's behalf. Do you ever miss it? Having a normal life, I mean." The question seemed to catch her off guard. She slowed her pace, considering. "A Valkyrie's life is one of purpose," she answered carefully. "It's not about what one gives up, but what one gains in service." "That's not really an answer," Naruto observed gently. Rossweisse glanced at him, a mixture of surprise and something else in her expression, perhaps appreciation that he'd noticed the evasion. "No," she admitted after a moment. "It's not. The truth is more complex." She paused before adding, "Perhaps we can discuss it another time. For now, we should focus on preparing you for tonight." They arrived at an ornate door carved with scenes of battle and celebration. "These will be your quarters during your stay," Rossweisse informed him, opening the door. Inside was a spacious chamber that reminded Naruto of historical paintings he'd seen of Viking halls, but with an ethereal quality that marked it as divine rather than mortal craftsmanship. A large bed draped with furs dominated one wall, while a balcony offered a breathtaking view of Asgard's golden spires. "This is excessive," Naruto commented, taking in the luxury. "As I said," Rossweisse replied with a small smile, "gods aren't known for subtlety." She moved toward the door. "Rest. Acclimate yourself. I'll return before the feast to ensure you're properly attired." As she turned to leave, Naruto called after her. "Rossweisse." She paused, looking back over her shoulder. "Thank you for your guidance, for making this easier than it could have been." Something softened in her expression. "You've handled yourself admirably in circumstances that would overwhelm most mortals, Naruto. That deserves respect." She hesitated before adding, "And I find our collaborations unexpectedly satisfying." With that cryptic statement, she departed, leaving Naruto to wonder if she was referring to their battles against shared enemies or something more personal. "The Valkyrie is warming to you," Kurama observed within his mind. "Though she guards herself carefully. She's just doing her job," Naruto replied, though without much conviction. "If you believe that, you understand women even less than you did as a teenager," the fox remarked dryly. "But that's not our most pressing concern. This Odin sees more than he reveals. He knows something out these dimensional breaches, and possibly about Shimura, that he's not sharing." "I picked up on that too," Naruto agreed, moving to the balcony to look out over the impossible city. "But for now, we play along. We need allies here, and information." As he gazed at Asgard's golden splendor, Naruto couldn't help but think of Konoha, so different in appearance yet similar in the sense of belonging it offered its inhabitants. For the first time since his arrival in this world, he felt the full weight of his displacement. The longing for home struck him unexpectedly, a sharp ache beneath his ribs. Yet alongside that longing was a growing curiosity about this new world and its inhabitants. Particularly about a certain silver-haired Valkyrie whose composed exterior seemed to hide depths he'd only begun to glimpse. Asgard had opened its doors to him. Now he needed to discover what secrets it held about his situation, and what role he might play in the events unfolding across the boundaries between worlds. Chapter 2 End.